Partnerships and relationships are stressed.
You can see that line.
I'm going to start with the video. I think I'm going to say some things that are controversial as well, which is why I didn't want to go first. But stop it, right?
Okay, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Anna Lam.
My name is Guido Gonzalez.
Hi, my name is Shane McDonald.
Hey going, my name is Saif.
Hi, my name's Alan.
My name is Lazar.
Media portrays my community and my way of life sort of based on stereotypes a lot.
It upsets me because that's how we're perceived.
It's important for us to represent our communities our ways.
Because mainly in the TV now you see, Middle Eastern, there is a crime, or Asian. The main thing is to maybe give them something good.
And us being from this area, I think we've got a great chance to tell the rest of Australia.
Look, we are not bad people.
It's nice for people to explore other communities.
We're gonna understand each other, we live better life,
I think a camera is like a window through imagination,
It's a part of who we are.
I guess the first highlight of the year was meeting the team.
Seeing the other guys, like they're all into film, and I don't know, they were just like me, but just from different parts of Western Sydney.
Me being part of modern media also puts me in a place to be. I can tell people I also belong.
I think the highlight for me, and the second highlight, was being able to finish a project.
My mom, Maria Fernanda Gonzalez Contreras, fled Chile in the 1980s, seeking asylum from poverty and persecution.
My mom, Zahra al-Askari, fled Iraq in 1995, seeking freedom from the persecution of Saddam. Village Moms, that was a big hit, because many people watched it. We had many people talk about it with us, I done a couple of radio interviews, newspapers as well. So that was a big highlight for me.
Having it seen on screen, with all the work we've done to make it happen, was well worth it,
Fui. It was very sad. Muy triste. Muy triste. Muy triste.
Villa with Moms is a story about my mom and Guido's mom. They both came to Villa Detention Center. They went through that. This story, it's different than Shane's story, which is the film Wake Up. Wake Up film, it reminds the mother and the father to wake up for their kids,
I think doing my first short is something I never thought I would ever do. Wake Up's about a young kid out in the street breaking cars. The reason I wanted to tell this story is Western Sydney has a high crime rate of cars being broken into or breaking enters and stuff. I've lost a lot of friends and family to this sort of stuff. It doesn't matter where you are, this is going to affect somebody in some way. I think if one person sees this film and and realizes what's going on around, they'll be more aware of it. Maybe they could stop stuff before it gets to that next point. And that's the whole reason why I've done this film. Here at CuriousWorks, they've given me my own voice, my own way to speak out about myself.
It gave me a big confidence, and then the sound and the filmmaking and all this stuff, of course.
More skills, I got more of a taste of what it was like in the industry.
I think I learned that if we have an idea, we can make the idea come alive.
The difference is that it comes from us, and if we haven't said anything, no one knows we have even have a story. But now we're gonna say it, so it makes it different.
We worked on the Financial Services Union. It was a project focusing on women who were fighting against the quotas set by a certain bank, and that was a highlight because it did actually have a big impact on the people that we worked with, and it was a very emotional experience for the ladies as well.
Unfair targets has been an issue on the Central Coast for a while, but it really came to a head about a year ago, March 2009. The region sent a directive that basically doubled all our daily targets.
It was good for the crew, it was good for myself in the sense that we learned something which was the skills that we'd learn in the future that we would need.
Madam Media is
a group of 6 professional filmmakers
from Western Sydney,
all formed together through the help of CuriousWorks.
What we're doing is documenting life in southwestern Sydney.
We know the local area, we know the people that we're servicing, and they're dedicated to those areas to service them for any community and business documentary needs. Okay, so what can you expect from Metamedia now and in the future? You can expect a great portfolio expanding with different types of businesses and community organisations getting involved.
And you can expect the truth from our areas.
We want to go bigger, and we want to do it as our full-time jobs, you know.
So I think we can go further.
We're going to do a great job, and that's what we're looking for.
I think the trendsetters, so it'll be good just to see where they go.
So my name is Shakti. I'm the director of CuriousWorks. I am an artist, and I split my time between making my own art and helping other people make art. And I'm going to use the word stories instead of art for the purposes of this talk. And in the context of what this discussion is about, I guess the controversial thing we're putting forward is that we found that there is the role that art can play in changing people's perceptions in terms of the story that piece of art tells. And then there is the role that art can play in terms of the processes that get to the point of the art being made. And unless those processes change about how we make art and who makes that art and who we share it with, we don't believe that it can have a powerful role in terms of the perceptions it can change. At the turn of the millennium, the World Bank interviewed more than 60,000 people who lived on less than $1 a day and asked them what their biggest barrier was to breaking down their own disadvantage. And equal to access to food or water was the need to have a voice, as defined by those very people. The capacity to tell their own story of how they were building dignity and opportunity in their lives was as important as having dignity and opportunity in their lives. At the turn of the millennium, as we all know, we also had the rise of a new medium of storytelling, the digital one. It's more affordable, more accessible, more widespread than ever before. And we have at this point an opportunity to match the power of digital media, at least the latent power, to the power that it can have in communities in terms of breaking down that disadvantage in a meaningful and long-term way. But from our perspective, we think there's a lot of flaws with how that's being done at the moment. And so the kind of reason CuriousWorks exists is to come up with a model for how that can be done in the best practice way, and to investigate how we can use digital media and connect it to the power of storytelling within communities in a way that really brings out the power that we know is latent in it, but we haven't seen manifest itself yet. And I say this in the context of a certain view of storytelling. I think if you look at the advertising industry, for example, Kevin 07, Yes We Can, all the way back to the Third Reich, we've kind of always assumed and forgotten to really look at how important stories are in creating big historical changes, not only on an individual level and how we think who we are, but also how people perceive the main issues of the day. And we only have to look, I guess, to our own first peoples really to understand that on a deeper level. And I like to think of the Dreamtime and the idea of the Dreamtime as this notion that if we don't sing about the land and tell stories about the land, then it ceases to exist. So, in that sense, it's none of this is a new idea at all. And certainly in that spirit, I'd like to acknowledge the country we're on. But what we try to do with our model is really look at how we can build capacity for the long term and work towards redundancy. So wherever we work, we're trying to find out how we can become redundant in that process, and the community can own the project and continue its kind of benefits on its own. And what we found that works best is working with schools, with councils, and setting up small businesses with people who want to be artists as their career. In schools, and with the work we've done with refugees, we've tended to focus on a linear process that starts with engaging people who are at risk of leaving school or at risk of having serious mental health issues and lack of trust in their public institutions because of their experience in coming here. And media in the arts is a transformative process for them that helps them build confidence and tell their story. And how we build on that in terms of sustainability is we'll then focus in on the teachers who are most engaged in that process and train them in how they can fit using digital media and the process of making art with those communities into their school curriculum. So it becomes an everyday part of how they teach at the school. And then the key students who are most engaged, we do more intensive training with them and help them become kind of young leaders in the school. And that's been an awesome process because quite often, like these kids over in Boat WA, who are obviously Indigenous, they're the kids that the community and the teachers have seen as the most troublesome in town, and their creativity and their passion has usually led them to firebombing letterboxes rather than making good art, but it's the perfect kind of criteria for a good artist. With councils, what we've done is focusing on how art can become part of the way that councils develop their neighbourhoods. This is something we do with Penrith City Council, and it was interesting because it involved working with a lot of different people from both refugee backgrounds, more middle-class backgrounds and Indigenous backgrounds as well. And what we did was we trained people to make art on whatever equipment they had around. So mobile phones, crappy computers, Internet Explorer 6 and Windows XP on it. And they followed researchers who were investigating questions that the council would use to develop a neighbourhood action plan. So art was made in a parallel process to the council deciding what its kind of next 10 years of the neighbourhood would be. And the council loved it because when communities ask each other through an artistic process about their neighbourhood, they speak honestly, with authenticity and with passion. And these are the kinds of things they never told council researchers when they were out there asking community what they asked for. So suddenly art was really valued as this tool that could help them go, okay, if this is what refugees are going through and what they desire, we can come up with better policies to deal with their situation. Whereas when they were asking those refugees directly, there was a distrust there that was stopping a kind of honest response from coming through. For the people, it was really interesting because you had a community hall, which an African group would want to use for their dance classes, another group would want to use for something different, and they had to come to terms with the fact that they had to share that space and use it for different purposes. And then the final part of that model is with enterprise. And what we found is that we met a lot of young people especially who wanted this to be their career, who want to have a career in media and the arts. And, were experiencing barriers to making that a life for them. And when I have a lot of friends who are artists, and we kind of get into narky conversations sometimes because it's hard to be an artist no matter what economic background you come from, and I understand that. But we do feel there's power in allowing people who come from certain backgrounds to have the opportunity to make art based on their own perspective. If communities don't have the tools to speak for themselves, this kind of leads to a lot of the long-term structural problems we have in our society, with the role that storytelling plays in it. And of course, art is a big part of that from our perspective. Maury did a study of about 10 years of mainstream media in Australia and found that if you took a particular minority group, let's say young people, that about 92% to 94% of media about that minority group was negative. And only 8% of that negative media featured people from those communities actually in that media. So on the whole, the stories that are told about minority communities are not told by them and are negative.